This is what John McCain had to say about illegal torture over the weekend.
I think the interrogations were in violation of the Geneva Conventions and the Convention Against Torture that we ratified under President Reagan. I think that these interrogations, once publicized, helped al-Qaeda recruit. I got that from an al-Qaeda operative in a prison camp in Iraq who told me that. I think that the ability of us to work with our allies was harmed, and I believe that information, according to the FBI and others, could have been gained through other methods.
So, very, very straightforward. John McCain laying it out. And his office later clarified that he and Lindsey Graham actually did have a conversation with an al-Qaeda, senior al-Qaeda operative while they were in, as I recall, in Iraq at one of the prisons there. It might have been at Bagram in Afghanistan. And what the guy told him was that, the stories of the torture were what they used to recruit people. And he stands by it. And yet at the same time, you've got Liz Cheney defending this. Well, you've got Dick Cheney defending torture.
It was good policy. It was properly carried out. It worked very, very well.
So even these cases where they went beyond the specific legal authorization, you're okay with it?
I am.
Even where they went beyond the specific authorization. Now, the specific authorization said don't kill people. They killed 100 people in the interrogation process. That's just fine with Dick Cheney. And then his daughter is out here defending this whole thing, and Sam Donaldson calls her on that.
Had that 2004 report been made public, and then they look at it, the public looks at it, and they say, all right, so drilling by the guys here, perhaps raping a female member of his family.
Sam, that is just inexcusable.
It's in the report.
It is, nobody raped anybody and nobody drilled anybody. There is a big difference. But the other point here to look at.
If I threaten you but don't actually hit you, there's a big difference.
There is a big difference.
Yeah, well, actually, threatening violence is against the law, as Sam correctly points out, and follows up with.
The law said that the threats were illegal. I mean, it's against the law.
Wait a second. That's not...
Wait a second. That's George Stephanopoulos, and he's right. And by the way, this was on George Stephanopoulos' show. The McCain clip before that was, as I recall, on Face the Nation. Yeah. And, then on Fox, after Chris Wallace kisses Dick Cheney all about the face and feet, and perhaps other parts of his body, and just does this whole routine. Juan Williams, the NPR commentator who's also a Fox commentator, which makes my head explode whenever I hear him on NPR, but in any case, Juan Williams says, wait a minute, you don't torture.
Just say quickly, two quick things. One is, in a democracy, you don't torture people. It's against the law. We're having this discussion here like, oh, well, if it works, it's okay. No, it's not okay. You don't torture people. And the second thing is, does it make America safer? No. In fact, it led to our reputation in the world being diminished and people not sending forces with us to fight in Iraq and elsewhere.
So now, Chris, hang on just a second here. Chris Wallace is going to come back with sarcasm. That's all he's got.
That doesn't help America.
All right. We have to take a break here, but I just want to point out to the audience that it is purely coincidental that this country has not been attacked again since 9/11.
Yeah. Well, actually, Chris, what it might have to do with is the fact that assuming that Osama bin Laden was actually behind the attack, that he only had 20,000 people who'd ever gone through his training camp. He had a small, merry band of followers, shall we say, and they were... actually, after 9/11, the Muslim world was horrified by them. I mean, the Islamic world was horrified by them. There were candlelight vigils in cities like Cairo and Tehran. All around the world, Muslims were saying, we are horrified by what has been done, apparently in the name of Islam. I think that until we invaded Afghanistan and Iraq, had we not invaded Afghanistan and Iraq, al-Qaeda would not exist today, because they would have been put out of business by Muslims who were saying in the days immediately following 9/11, who were saying, not in our name, this is horrific. And instead what we got was George W. Bush wanting to be a war president so bad so that he could get the political capital associated with it, as he told his biographer in 1999 when he talked with Mickey Herskowitz, and who was writing his book A Charge to Keep, which is now in print, writing the first draft of it, and he told Mickey Herskowitz if he became president, this was 2 years before he was president, before he was appointed president by the Supreme Court, if he became president and he had the ability to invade Iraq, he wouldn't make the mistake that his father did with just a 100-hour war. He would become a war president, and he would have a successful presidency, and he would use that political capital to accomplish the things he wanted to accomplish, like privatizing Social Security.